All right, so I'm going to read from my new novel, Ferment. This just came out. I read chapter 2 here a couple weeks ago. I'm going to read from chapter 22 now.
Time skip.
Little time skip. This is the main character, Mike, is going into the producer of the circus's office. He's just come back from college, Mike has, and he's been put in charge of the circus. It's about 6 minutes, probably. "You want a drink?" Mr. Schmidt asked. "Yes, sir." Mr. Schmidt got up from his desk and walked to the elaborate cherrywood bar in the corner of his office. The bar was about the size and shape of a half-height bookshelf, but with sturdy legs on the bottom to bring it up to the correct height for Mr. Schmidt to mix drinks. The back of the bar had 2 doors that folded out. The top could then be folded over each door to form a 4-foot-long bar with a copper and wood top. The front side had a brass rail at the bottom and padded leather with a juggling clown embedded in it. Mike stood in the front with 1 foot placed uncomfortably on the brass rail, and he watched Mr. Schmidt open the bar, take out 2 crystal old-fashioned glasses, fill them with ice, and pour 2 simple but generous bourbons. "If you're working in here," Schmidt said, "you're gonna learn to drink." "Cheers," said Mike. The first bourbon went down fast, with Mike following Mr. Schmidt's lead. The whiskey was hot and cold, sweet and bitter, harsh but smooth. Just the suggestion that Mike would be learning to drink, rather than just drinking, was enough to put him into a contemplative place. Nothing needed to be said between them, but the drink and the moment sealed the deal they had made. Mike was going to become a responsible and vital piece of the business, and Mr. Schmidt would treat him with respect and teach him what he knew. The second whiskey, a different one, Mr. Schmidt poured into different glasses. These were more bulbous and without ice. Just a drop of water in each, which Schmidt poured from a fresh bottle he opened just for this drink. "Have you ever had single malt scotch?" Schmidt asked. "No." "If anything in the world is special and precious, it's this," Schmidt said, swirling his glass and catching the smells coming off from the amber liquor. Mike did likewise. Schmidt continued, "What you have here is the purest connection between the untamed earth and the most refined of refined human achievements. Wine can be flexible. You can quaff it or sip it. It goes with food, and you can live on it if you have some bread too. Single malt scotch hates food. It's still partway buried in the earth, and it resents you for taking it out of Scotland. It calls for home, wants to return, can't return, and expresses everything it knows about this place it's from. It wants to pass on the feel of its special isle or bog, the taste and smell of the air. It's from a place you'll probably never see. Most people won't see it. It's a place that doesn't fit well into our world. But if this special place can cause this whiskey to so boldly express itself, to the exclusion of all other concerns, then this place and this values it holds and the history and culture that are so artfully captured in this very peculiar and particular bottle of whiskey are worth our consideration and full attention. You don't ever fuck up a good glass of scotch with ice, soda, food, or people who don't deserve it." Mike took a tiny sip from the much less generous pour of the scotch. The taste was much more complex than the first whiskey, and it evoked a sense of place he'd never been. An old leather couch or wallet, a shack in a swamp where the mud and the air are saturated to the point of becoming one. The moss on the roof of the old place traps the warmth inside, and the fire burns and dries the wet wood slowly but surely in the cast iron stove. Mike stood at the bar in a trailer in the middle of America, with a general feeling of dread and apprehension about the journey he was about to embark upon, and the responsibility that had landed on his shoulders. But in that sip, he was somewhere else entirely, with universal concerns, a connection to history and place, and a sense that no matter what, we're all going to return to where we started, and the best we can do is to find a true way to express where we've been and what our values and passions have been. Let's get this out.